Alright, what's going on, guys? Doing a brew day today. Doing a double brew day, so I'm chilling right now my 5 gallons of a pale ale. It is running through the heat exchanger there. And the pale ale is at my local home brew shop. The guy there he got 100 pounds of two-row from a company called Patagonia Malting Company, and they gave it to him for free on the stipulation that he would give it out to home brewers, and that they would make kits out of the beers, or that they would make beers out of those ingredients, out of their two-row, and then they would make kits out of that beer if they liked it, is my understanding. So just doing a real simple pale ale with really just a Cascade pale ale, just using Cascades and Centennial for bittering, but Cascades the rest of the way. So real simple recipe. Going to be about 4.5–5%. So nothing too fancy there. But I am also doing a 10 gallons of a Lambic that I'm mashing in right now. It's been mashing for about 35–40 minutes or so, and the recipe I am calling, let me see what that is. So the Lambic recipe is basically just Pilsner malt, wheat, acidulated malt, just like a little bit, like half a pound, and some oats, some rolled oats. So Dan ABA came up with the recipe, and we both had a vial of East Coast Yeast 20. It's a blend of Brettanomyces, Saccharomyces, Lactobacillus, and Pediococcus. It's like a Rosalaire blend, but just made by a different company. So he brewed a Lambic about a month ago, and I said, "What's the recipe?" And I'll brew the same. So that's what I'm doing today. So in about 18 months, maybe 12 to 18 months, we'll do a bottle share of our different beers. I believe he oaked his, and I don't think I'm going to oak mine. I don't know. He used an oak spiral, and I don't have any of those. So that might be a difference. And looks like I came up a little bit short on the volume that I wanted for my pale ale. Let me see. Well, it's just under 5 gallons. That's not too bad. Yeah, I didn't leave much wort in the. I've been having lots of. I boil off pretty hard, so I need to start adjusting for that. But what was I saying? Yeah, so we basically just brewed the same recipe, and we'll do an exchange here in a year and a half. But I think I'm going to ferment my beer in this Sankey keg right here. I got PBW in it right now, cleaning it out. I've used this keg for primary fermentation before, and it works out pretty good. My plan is to do I want to get as close to 14 gallons as I can for this Lambic. So I might actually add water back into it at like flame out or something. I don't know. But I want to get a kind of like a Solera project, so I'll have 10, let's say 13 gallons of a Lambic in here, and then I'll pull 5 gallons off, and then put 5 gallons back into it the same day, and hopefully I could have a nice Lambic every 6 months or so. So that's the plan with that. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to I got to get this keg cleaned out, because I will be putting the Lambic in it very soon. Oh shit, almost dropped it. I'll be doing it's like a cheating for a turbid mash, which is a traditional way of mashing a Lambic. I'd have to read up exactly how they do it, but it's basically a way to add starches into the end wort. And it's more of a traditional way of doing a Lambic. But I'm going to do it by adding some of these rolled oats into the boil, or not into the boil, but at around 180 degrees. I'll steep these at 180 degrees for about 20 minutes or 10-15 minutes, and that will pull out a lot of the starches in the oats. So there's been a discussion on Homebrew Talk about this for a couple weeks, so been meaning to try it. Dan did it on his Lambic, so gotta do it, Dan. Got to do it. So all right, well oh, I'm also, Dan used some type of a hop, I don't know, but I have aged hops that I bought from Hops Direct, ironically enough. So they're actually, those hops are actually 2 years old. I've had them for 2 years, so they're really aged. So I'll be adding aged hops instead of like pot pellets or something. So other than that, the recipe is about the same. So I will, I'll shoot a little bit more of this, but not too much. All right. One quick thing on the yeast is I have actually used this East Coast yeast number 20 before, and I racked it off primary, and I harvested as much of this as I could. This is probably a lot of Saccharomyces in here, but the reason I said that is because when I got this Bug Country through the mail, which is basically the only place you can get it, it was freezing temperatures, and it was basically a slushy. So it wasn't frozen solid when I got it, but it was definitely, it was just like a slushy. I mean, it was real. So this is not in prime shape. You can kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but a little bit of discoloration on the yeast. It goes from like a light beige to a brown and kind of marbly looking. But so I have my doubts about this being viable. I'm probably gonna kill the cat because it comes in every time. But I'm gonna pitch both of these. It is 10 gallons, so I'm not too worried about over pitching. This is probably 2 months old, and this is probably 2 months old as well, so they're both not super fresh, but we'll see what happens. I don't think I'm going to add any dregs into it. Dan said he's not going to add dregs to his version. I don't really have too many lambics that I could even drink to add, to be 100% honest, so I'm not opposed to adding dregs, but I'll probably keep it a pure strain as well. So, alright. I'm about ready to start Vorloffing. Cat. Nothing like a little brew day disaster. All that right there is from my first runnings Vorloffing right now. I just started Vorloffing there on the ground, turned around, grabbed something, forgot about it, and I probably dumped about a couple half gallon or so of first running, so efficiency might go down. Alright, adding about a pound of the rolled oats. I'll let those steep. The temp's at 175 and climbing, so get some real starchy wort here. Awesome. Alright. It's been boiling for an hour, this lambic. I just added back probably a gallon, maybe a gallon and a half worth of water. It's going to be like 1054 is going to be the gravity on it, but I'm adding back water just because I'm doing a 2-hour boil, and I don't know, I don't want the volume to go down and the gravity to go up, so what I'm about to add, though, are some Choice Bittered. I've had these for like 2 years, just sitting on top of my fridge, so. And I'm not going to really measure. Who needs to measure? But these are, they look, let's see here. They don't look bad, but they smell like they don't really smell like hops. They kind of smell like a spice or something. So, I'm going to pitch in a few handfuls of these. I'll pitch in a couple ounces, maybe 3 or 4 ounces, and boil it for another hour. So 2-hour boil. It is a pretty vigorous boil, so I'm going to probably add back another gallon of water. I boil a gallon on my stove and put it back in. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the brew day. It'll be an 8-hour brew day for me, so that's always fun. But yeah, so I got some star sand in the old fermentation keg, and we'll be good to go. All right. All right, it's 36 hours later or so. This is the pale ale. The yeast I used was called Mangrove Jack. It was just a dry yeast that I just sprinkled on top. I usually don't do that, just sprinkle it on top, and I think that's why it's got such a slow start. It's really only starting right now, 36 hours later. The Lambic, though, as you can hear, is ripping and roaring. So, yep, fermenting in the keg, so far so good. Kind of hoping I don't have anything blowing off. I did collect about 13 gallons. So, maybe 12 and a half, 13 gallons. So it's pretty full. But, alright guys, I'll be tasting this in a year or so. I'm going to just let it primary. I'm not going to transfer it out of the keg or anything like that. So it's just going to stay in there. Alright, cheers.